Can we just cover the team news first of all? Obviously, we won't see the 21 until tomorrow. Is there potential for changes on Friday?
Well, Mikolaj is obviously out, and Callum will come into the 17.
So Callum Watkins will make his second debut. What do you want to see from him?
Um, I don't want to apply too much pressure to him. Early in the piece, he'll start off the bench and we'll put him on. But I just want to see him get a feel for how we play and what we're trying to push and what we're trying to drive around, where we want to play our field position. So, we've given him a couple of little roles to play in that. And, he'll play a bit through the middle for us and try and get some short interchange of passing going. But outside of that, as long as he carries strong and he works hard in defence and he just starts to ease himself into, our systems, it'll take a couple of weeks for him. But on the back of how he trained today, I feel like he's going to, he'll get in there nice and smoothly pretty quickly, I reckon.
We spoke last week about the leadership the extra leadership that he'll add to that group. Have you seen evidence of that already?
Oh, you can just feel his presence. He hasn't said a great deal yet, but I'm sure once he gets comfortable and in the environment, but you can just see his presence, and the respect levels from the players. So I think that'll be enough to start with.
And how big a miss is Big Mick?
Yeah, but like he is, because I've been really happy with the way Mick's playing. He's been playing really well for us each week and fronting up, and getting us off to good starts. But it just provides, someone else an opportunity. That's how we've looked at it. And, you know, I can joke about it. It's made me decision easier not to have to worry about having a tough conversation with one of the boys. No one really deserved to miss out on the team this week. So I suppose it gets put off for a week, doesn't it?
I was going to say that conversation is somewhere
Yeah.
along the line. Did James McDonald sort of have that in his mind last week, do you think?
No, I think Mac is pretty comfortable on his position in the team, and he knows how well he's been playing. And like I said after the game last week, defensively he's been very, very strong for us. Picked up our last couple of weeks of worth of awards, around our defensive principles and efforts. And it was probably just that he got a few opportunities with the ball on the back of the hard work he's been doing in defence.
Just on Keenan, obviously he's escaped sanction from the match review panel again, despite being sin binned. Is there something he needs to do to avoid that sort of ambiguity within the game?
Yeah,
Because obviously it doesn't help you,
look,
does it?
no, it doesn't. And like, feel a little bit sorry for those big guys, when they got the smaller guys running at them. But we've just worked really hard as a group, on our target area, and we've got to continue just to lower our target area. That's our obligation. There's no malice or deliberate intentions from Keenan or Mick there. They're big men, and we've just got to work on, our feet into to the tackle, and just where our actual target area is, so we can try and avoid that. Those 2 10-minute sin bins, because the one the week before against Warrington was pretty costly, and put us under the pump 30 seconds into the game on the weekend. But yeah, look, without being too harsh on them, that they're aware of and the whole squad is aware of, especially our forwards, about our target.
Huddersfield up next. Just give us an idea as to how tricky they are to plan for, given their record in Super League so far.
Oh, I don't think you should look too far at their record. We're focused on like all their games. They've been right in them, especially at the start. Look, I don't know the exact stat around it, but I think early in the season, their first 4 or 5 games, they might have been in front in all their games at the halfway mark or at the 30-minute mark. So, they're playing with plenty of effort and plenty of energy, and we've got to make sure that we're prepared to match that.
I don't know if you've ever found yourself in the sort of same situation that Luke Robinson is in at the moment, and whether you might have some advice for any coach that's going through it at the moment like that.
Oh, look, the good thing about it is, from his perspective, and he'll find it tough to see it this way, but as a coach, like he's got a team, they're trying hard and they're playing hard for him. They're probably a bit down on confidence that, bounce of the ball can change that for them, and they just got to stick at it. Obviously they've been down with injuries as well. So, it's been a tough initiation for him, and he'll get better and he'll grow as a coach from these tough moments. It's easy when you're winning, like you find out about your coaching when you're losing. and the type of squad you got in the person you are. And all my dealings with him, he seems like a good, genuine guy, and you can see the boys play for him. So I think moving forward, they'll be fine.
Just lastly from me, players are human at the end of the day. They look at things like tables and results. Do you have to remind them about complacency ahead of Friday?
No, because sometimes you can talk them into that, and I've learnt that as a coach. Sometimes you can over focus on that, and it comes across a bit of that you don't trust the group, and also you can talk them into them thinking that that's how they're going to turn up. So we've just focused on the things that we need to continue to be good at, and because we've been good at a lot of things, we need to keep being good at those things each week. And then when we start to spend, more time on trying to improve some of our stuff, like we spent a fair bit of time today trying to improve our try line attack, but doesn't mean we can afford to drop off with how good we've been defensively and, how good we've been generating good field position. Look, we start losing that, well, we're not going to get opportunity at the try line. So it's just the balance of doing the things that we're doing really well and then trying to add some improvements as we go.
How's Cam Smith? He's getting towards the end of the time period. Could we see him back in the next week or two?
No, I think he was always like around the 10-week mark. So around the round 10, round 11, we got a few that are going to be getting close. So Cam Smith's close there, but after the round 10 game, we've got a week off. So look, we'll just have to. It might be worthwhile giving him the extra 2 weeks there, but we'll wait and see. We're not going to hold blokes out just for the sake of it, but like Crofty's around that time as well, and Ethan, is around that time. So we'll get a couple around that time, and then Ackers is still a little bit past that.
How's one of the young kids we've not seen this year, Ben Littlewood? How's he getting on? Because he'd done quite a serious hamstring.
Yeah, no, and we're just taking it nice and slow and nice and steady. Because he'd had surgery on it, so we've just been real careful with him. He's out running at the moment, but we're just taking it very gradual with him.
And Max Simpson, I understand he's had another setback. Is that right?
Yeah, just had a slight setback a couple of weeks ago. So again, we just got to keep going around and trying to strengthen and get him stronger in his lower body. And it's unfortunate for the kid because he's trying hard. It's just, yeah.
You must really feel for him. I mean, he's not played.
I do. I feel for a lot of those kids, mate, because you can see it in their eyes. Like they're devastated when that happens to them. They feel like they're probably letting people down, but they're not. They're trying really hard. And sometimes, like this is part of their developing and learning as a player. And you go through tough times, but if they can pull themselves out the other side of it, they'll be better for
it. Quarter of the season gone. How would you rate the opening 7 rounds?
Look, there's lots of good there, and I reckon the good we've been consistent with, but the things that we need to be improved have been consistent with that too. Like our attack at times has looked a bit clunky and disjointed. I've talked a lot about chasing the scoreboard. I still feel like we're learning how to win and what winning looks like. Like we're building the games really nicely. We've put ourselves in a position in all those games to win them. But, like just taking that next step around how do we win them and what's our response to big moments in the game, whether they be good or bad. And, I thought we showed a good sign on the weekend, around our better responses to some things. And we only made 4 errors in that game, Pete, the other night. Like I know we at times we looked a little bit disjointed in attack, but we didn't lose our heads, and we stayed in control and we didn't turn them into errors. We just went away, got another set there and just kept trying to improve it and get their execution right.
Is the defence the most pleasing aspect?
Yeah, I'm really happy with that. Like, I think we sit in the, maybe the top 3 or 4 teams with our defensive, all around the stats and points against. And, we got shown up early in the season against Wakefield in a period of 10 minutes on just a couple of shifts there. But, like Riley Lum's still learning his role, and he's only a young guy, and he's going to have good days and he's going to have a couple of days where he mightn't get it right. But his progression's been part of that, and, he's getting tested a lot. But he's getting better each week with an understanding of his role and, his decision making there.
Have you been pleased with Riley? Obviously, he wasn't expected to play this number of games, and
Yeah, well,
he's had to come in at short notice.
yeah, and the only way they get experience is through opportunities like this. Like you can do all the training we like, but it's not the same as getting the experience in a game. And the fact that he's getting a good chunk of back-to-back weeks and getting bashed around a bit and getting his body ready to go again and staying in it and keeping his head focused. Like it's a real challenge for him. He's only young, but he's got good help around him there. Like with Ash, like couldn't ask for a better person to be alongside him because he's nice and calm and he talks to him really well.
I think you've won your last 2 home games. I think 3 of your next 4 are at home as well. It's a big opportunity, isn't it, to sort of get some momentum and obviously get some wins at home and get that home support right behind you.
Yeah, it is, and we haven't looked too far down the track, but definitely the importance of home games, and I tried to make that really clear when I arrived, with 10 games to go last year. As long as we don't see that as pressure or get anxious around it, like I feel like in round 1 against Wakefield, we tried too hard, like to win for the fans. I want the boys to try hard and enjoy working hard for each other and themselves, and then the fans will be happy because we'll get the results. So, there's a good focus around our home ground and trying to bring the crowd into it, but it's probably more important that we start really well defensively and we try and build our games through our field position that we've been playing, and our attack will get better with the more time we spend there and the more opportunities we get to practice it.
It's obviously been well acknowledged the problems you've had in the spine this year. You've got an 8-day turnaround between games this week and no fresh injuries in the spine. Does it almost feel like a rare opportunity to get some minutes in on the training ground and get some cohesion in there?
Yeah, well, we just come off and we just talked about then. It's probably the best we've looked with our attack today. Nice and composed. Everyone knew their role. And to be fair to the players, I haven't given them a lot of time with the ball. Like it's been mainly defence focused, but we've discussed if we're going to switch our focus a little bit more to with the ball, well, we can't afford to lose those efforts in defence because you won't have much time with the ball. So it's a real juggling act, and we need to make sure that we've still got that grit that we've been playing with defensively. But we'll get a few things wrong on Friday. That's how we respond to it, and then but I'm hoping that we might seem a bit more fluent with the ball.
The one constant in the spine almost throughout the years has been Jake. I mean, I was just looking at the metrics across the comp. I think he's in the top 10 for about 15 or 16 different positive metrics. I mean, how integral has he been and how pleased have you been with him in this first 7 rounds?
Yeah, he's been good. Like all that stuff that you guys talk about is great, but the things that I'm enjoying about just the style of footy that he's trying to play. For us, where it's all centered and focused around his defensive efforts first. Is where we're finishing our sets, and then that's probably providing him the opportunity and it's springboarding him into most of the games, in my opinion, to be able to come up with the confidence to pull the trigger and play those plays and execute them at the right time. But I think it's just his mindset to some of the effort areas and a different approach to his game, which is allowing him the confidence to back himself, to play the way he is. So that's the challenge is for him to stay in that mindset and not get ahead of himself and not get excited and continue to every game's a new game. He's got to start again. Every half's a new half. He might kill it in the first half. He can't go back out there in the second half. I think it's just going to happen. He's got to start again and work at it and build it. And he's showing good patience and composure in doing that at the moment. And he's reaping the rewards, and so are we as a team.
He was asked pre-season when he joined you guys whether he'd closed the door on his international career. I mean, he'd obviously had a little bit of a taste for it earlier in his career. Do you sense that he's got the ability and the sort of confidence in the game to force his way back into thinking? I mean, there's an Ashes series on the horizon at the end of this year. Everyone would want to be involved. Do you sense he's capable of making that step up?
Oh, look, I think that's a long way away. And Jake's focus right now is about, he walked off the field pretty comfortable and confident in how he played and happy with he played on the weekend. I think he's focusing on making sure that he backs that up each week. And then if he does enough of that by the end of the season, well, why couldn't he? But at this stage, it's certainly the longest thing from his mind and our mind, and it's about him being just able to replicate what he's doing each week, because every time he does it, teams will start to have more of a target on him. We'll start to come up with more defensive plans to stop him. So if he can keep keep at it and keep nullifying those, well, he might put himself in the frame, but it's certainly too far away to be sort of thinking about at the moment.
I just wanted to ask you about Matt Frawley. There's always a fair bit of attention on his performances. Were you pleased with his contribution last week?
Yeah, I think in the first half he tried probably too hard. And, look, I'm talking to the team about that. They're trying so hard to please, us coaches, the fans, the members, everyone. Look, I need them to try hard to please their teammates. Like do the stuff that your teammates need you to do and to please yourself. And then, everyone on the peripheral, the fans will be happy. The team, like their families will be happy. We'll be happy as coaches because we'll put ourselves in good positions to win games. So, look, that's the thing I'm really grateful from the team at the moment is their effort is through the roof. The physicality is good and they're really trying to do the best they can. And sometimes we're just trying too hard. And I think Frawls is a bit in that situation in the first 40 minutes. But once I talked to him at half time just to relax, settle in the game. You don't have to be involved in everything. Just nail your job. And I thought he'd done a really good job in the second half. We come out a bit more relaxed and I thought we looked better. So, and he's trained better again today.
Is that the biggest thing then? Because you said the effort's there, and is it just about building confidence and feeling comfortable going out there and implementing the game plan?
It is, and it's like I said, it's keep that level of effort and then trying so hard to please, but they've got to try hard to please each other. Like be able to look around in the dressing sheds and your teammates and knowing that, well, you've done your job for your teammate. Like, and if they all do that and you got 17 blokes that can look around knowing that, well, I pleased me mate today, I know I'm going to be a happy coach and I know we're going to have happy fans because it's going to give us a better chance of being more consistent and winning more games of football.
Yeah, just back to the halfbacks. While you're down to one hooker, do you see Jack Sinfield's role being off the bench for the foreseeable rather than a potential replacement for Brodie Croft?
Well, I spoke to Cindy about it, and I feel like he gives me more options. And he came on the other day with about 25 to go, and he had a couple of good carries out of dummy half. And I think it's good for his development and his growth too. Like he might think his best position is halfback. We might think that moving forward, but right now, like where he can fit into the team, and he just wants to be part of the 17, is wherever he continues to do a good job there, he gives us that flexibility off the bench. Where he can cover quite a few spots, and it's pretty good as a coach to have that option on the bench.
No, definitely. And just finally on Matt Frawley, he's one of the players off contract at the end of the year. How much of a say are you having in those discussions and whether players will stay or leave?
Well, look, at the moment, that's all with Bleasy. And, he's right across that. I think we've still got a little bit of time up our sleeve, and there's no hurry on any of those sort of moves at the moment. He's slowly working through, ticking off a few guys, and he's getting a few sorted. But yeah, he's right across it, mate.
Do you have much input at all?
Oh, I have my opinion, yeah. Yep. And, that's just my opinion as a coach and, what I think the club needs moving forward.
How close are the club to deciding on a lot of those players so you can move on to potential transfer targets?
Well, I don't think we need to go and target too many, mate, to be honest with you. I think the group that we've got, Bleasy's first role is to make sure he keeps this group together, and we keep this group together. And then if we got the opportunity to add to it, well, we can. But I think majority of the team, we need to look at giving a good 12, 18 months, like that 2-year window of getting familiar with each other, like we've just added Kallum. So we would like to make sure we can keep him, to stick around as well. Yeah.
So you imagine 2 or 3 changes potentially squad-wise?
Look, I don't want to talk numbers, mate, because I don't know exactly. You're driving hard here, aren't you? To try and, but look, at the end of the day, Bleasy's right across it, mate. He's going to do his best, and he's progressing pretty good.